So I've already done a talk on choosing your Gnostic spouse, looking at the right qualities, or rather discerning the characteristics and qualities that would be best suited for you according to the Kabbalah tree of life and according to the 4 elements, which also relate to the 4 personality types, which are on a spectrum. So now I'm going to talk about some of the best places to meet people, and from least effective to most effective. I shouldn't say that these are some of the best places. I should say just places in general, beginning from the least effective to the most effective, because this is pretty important, and I think it's easy to overlook the other options that are out there that might work for you better. So the first easiest way to spot people is on the street. This is technically the easiest way to physically, one of the easiest ways to physically see people is right on the street where you live, especially if it's a major city. But it's also the most unnatural and difficult place to make a friend, or get a first date, get somebody's number and set up a first date. So I don't really recommend going around town and trying to find people, or at a mall or something, picking people up at a mall or a restaurant, some random commercial place, right? There are guys in the social arts community, and they do this because they're professional pickup artists. But it took them, a lot of these guys are pretty nerdy actually, and it took them years to get to the confidence to be able to do that. And these guys will make these cold approaches. It's very unnatural, it's very awkward, but they pull it off, and they do it all the time. So you can do that, but it's really difficult, and it's extremely awkward. Most people don't have the confidence to do this, and it's just not a good way of doing it, because a lot of the people that you see, you'll never see again, because they're just passerbys. It's not like they're regularly visiting the same place that you also go to too, right? So you need a high degree, enormous confidence. You need things to say. You might even need some, canned material. You need some way of starting a conversation and repeating that over and over again, so that you always know what to say, at least to start a conversation. Now, the next thing is random stores, like grocery stores and places like Staples or London Drugs or something like that, right? These are maybe a little bit better, because a lot of the time we get captivated by, we see somebody working somewhere, and we get interested. And so we really want to talk to them, and we know that they're working on a certain day of the week, or certain days of the week. So, there's some benefit to this, because it can become a regular thing. If you shop at one particular grocery store enough, then you'll start to know when this person is working. You can keep visiting. You have more than one opportunity or chance to talk to them. You can keep visiting, acquaint yourself with them, become familiar, or rather become a familiar customer, and start to build a bit of a connection. But again, this is not a very natural environment, because a lot of these places, it's not typical in most of our cultures, at least in the North America, it's not typical to strike up a conversation, maybe a little bit of chit chat, but to maintain a decent conversation with somebody at, especially at a grocery store where there's always a lineup. Quite a lineup. You don't have a lot of time to talk to the person. You just have a few seconds or half a minute, a minute at most maybe a couple minutes if it's slow. So it's not interactive. It's not a conducive place to socialize. You don't go to these places. It's not part of the culture to go to the grocery store and socialize. People don't do that. To go to Staples and just socialize. People are not expecting you to talk a lot. And so, again, when you choose this route, you need a lot of confidence, because if you start talking to this person, it'll start to become very obvious to them that you like them. So you have to be okay with being bold like that. You got to come in with lots of confidence, and you got to be bold and make it clear to them that you like them, because as soon as you start talking more than 30 seconds, more than a minute, the person's going to think, especially with a smile on your face, maybe you're being a bit flirtatious, the person is going to easily consider that you like them. So be aware that it's obvious. You have to and if it's obvious, you're just going to have to embrace that. Just, for the men, be a man, just do it, right? And for the women, again, be a woman. Technically, this is, cosmic masculine behavior to be this active and imposing. So not really conducive for meeting people. I don't recommend it. But sometimes we can't help ourselves. We get very attracted to somebody at a place like this, at London Drugs. And we really want to talk to them, so we try to make it happen. You just have to be aware that there's a lineup. You don't have a lot of time. And actually, I should add about that, you often don't have a lot of time to work with because there's a lineup. So if you're going to do this, try to find the right time, early in the morning or later in the evening. Maybe early in the morning is better, because in the evening, the person's gone through their whole day and they just want to go home and they're tired. But at the same time, her morning and evening are slower times, right? Typically, if it's like later evening, not rush hour or dinner time, but later evening, then the lineup is not as long, not as big. But yeah, it's awkward because people are not expecting you to talk, and then you start talking and they're going to be thinking, who is this person like talking so much? I guess they like me. You need to find a lead up, some opener, a way of starting the conversation. And because it's not, as I said, it's not interactive, so there's nothing to sort of grab onto to talk about. It's abrupt and weird to just, you're paying for your thing and you just say, what kind of music do you like? What kind of art do you like? Do you like this? Do you like that? Like, it's so abrupt and awkward, right? Whereas if you're in an art class or you're in like a DJ music class, you can easily just say, oh, this is really cool. Wow. What brought you to this class? What kind of music do you like? It's completely natural. Yeah, the only good thing about it is that where this person works. It can become a regular thing. You can become a regular customer, and that's what builds a connection. That's what turns you from a stranger on the street to, that guy or that girl that comes by every week or so. Now, the next tier per se is clubs, and I'm distinguishing from clubs. I'm distinguishing from bars, because bars and clubs can be a bit different, right? Clubs are generally louder. Typically, clubs are louder. The music is really blasting. It's completely crowded. And the same kind of level of difficulty, I would say, are one-time events. Things like annual events or seasonal music festivals and rock concerts that don't happen very often. Like a big famous band like Queens of the Stone Age, right? They don't come to your city every month, right? Every few years, every 5 years, they'll come to your city, right? So the problem with these places is they're, again, not interactive. They're way too loud. They're kind of interactive in some ways, there's dancing and stuff, but they're so loud, you can't hear the person very easily. Some music festivals are okay because they're on the beach or something, or they go on for a few days. But again, because these are one-time events, you only got one shot. I'm not going to make that joke. And that's it. If you miss your chance, you may never see that person again. So you can try, but don't get your hopes up, because I've tried making friends too, not just meeting people for dates, but just making friends from all sorts of opportunities and types of events and venues. And it's extremely difficult to turn those strangers into real friends. I mean, I've added so many people on Facebook, but nobody that I met from a rock concert or art gallery event. One thing is they usually take a long time to respond or reply to me. Maybe they accept the friend request and then they don't respond to my message. And then they take a week to respond, and I could never make it happen because I'm still a stranger to these people. They don't really know who I am. It's already been days or weeks. They finally added me on Facebook. Accepted my friend request. And now I'm trying to set up a hangout or something, and there's like no incentive for them. Like, who is this guy? Is that guy that we met at the whatever event? Okay, well, who is he again? Not much incentive. And there's no rapport. There's not much connection. You only had one night. So when you go that route, yeah, it's possible, but you got to make that connection really strong, actually. You two have to really hit it on and have a good connection and feel that bond. Maybe have some deep conversations, and that's how it goes down, right? And then it becomes memorable, and you get the contact information, and you'll meet again. Chances are higher. But if you just chit-chatted for a bit, then it's forgettable. You'll stay a stranger. Clubs, on the other hand, they can be more of a frequent thing if you see the regulars, but because they're so loud, you need to find one that has a quiet smoke area, like a smoke lounge or an outside smoking area that people are just sitting and hanging out and talking. Then it's doable. And it's best if you can find one that actually seems to bring the same people or has the same kind of events every month or so, like a Latin night or a goth night every month. And you see this, you'll notice you see the same people. Okay, now the next level up is what I consider the effective range of places you can meet people and means. So cafes, bars, and some restaurants. So I distinguish bars from clubs because bars are quieter, generally speaking. And the unique thing about bars and cafes is that they have seating. And much of this seating, much of the time, you go to a bar or you go to a cafe, at least most bars, but some cafes too, they have bar seating right at the front of the cashier table. Right at the the cashier or clerk table. It's kind of built into the same structure. So you could be sitting right beside the baristas, right in front of them. You could be sitting right in front of the the bartenders, I mean. So, and the thing is, now there are some differences here. Cafe culture is not that social. The people who go to cafes, they just want privacy and peace and quiet. They don't want to be bothered, really. They want to read and drink, do work on their laptop. But the baristas there are more or less available. They're busy with work, of course, but it's definitely possible, and it's more likely to build rapport with the baristas, especially if you're sitting right in front of them when they're working, right? You're sitting at the front bar where the cashier is. You can talk to the baristas. And again, it's a place where they work, so you have multiple opportunities to do this. Also you can become a regular. And in one sense, they're like a regular. They're not a regular customer. They're a regular worker. You can become the regular customer. And they'll start recognizing you. They'll start just making your drink without even asking because they know what you like. They'll start remembering your name and smiling all the time, saying hello. That's really good. That's what you want, because that is called building rapport, building familiarity, and building a connection. There's a bit of a connection going on. And then if you escalate that more, if you work on it, all you have to do is, this would involve actually talking to them and having, daily or routine conversations with these workers. Then it becomes natural. So it's much more interactive this way. And then with the bar, with bars, the culture is just more social in general. So obviously a lot of people go to bars to meet strangers. And again, if you can find a bar that brings regulars, even better. You can be a regular. You can spot other regular customers, and those people can be your potential candidates. So in fact, from my experience, my years of trying to make friends at different kinds of venues, some kind of like art club venues were not doing it at all for some reason. I guess they just weren't interactive enough. Now that I'm reflecting on it, they didn't really bring enough regulars actually, and it was too loud. The regulars who were working there weren't enough of them. They were too busy. They weren't interested in me. But it just so happened to be that some bars that I came across, there's one particular one that I actually work at. It's very popular, and it did happen to, and it still brings a lot of regulars to this day. And that's how I made a few of my closest friends, was just going there regularly and eventually introducing myself and playing pool with them. And so that's another thing, pool tables are a bit more interactive. It's a way of, because a lot of strangers just like to play, they want to play with somebody. So it's normal to play pool with strangers because people don't want to play by themselves, right? So they can also just sit there, and if you see someone enough, you just start talking to them, right? You see the same person every Thursday and every Tuesday. So you have more than one opportunity to make something happen. And because you have more than one opportunity, you should really work towards building that sense of connection and familiarity, right? Because it's when people recognize you as a friend as opposed to just a stranger, that's what gives them some incentive, and they feel closer to you, they feel connected to you. Now, another place you can meet people is work and school. And some people say you shouldn't eat in the same place you defecate. But I would say that the benefits, if you're a mature person who can handle some conflict, the benefits outweigh the detriments or the downsides. Because really, school and work can be some of the most interactive places. So I know lots of people who've had a very good time just meeting their partners at work because it was just so easy. It was very interactive. They had plenty of time to build rapport, to get to know each other. And again, in a sense, it can be more interactive than just being at a bar and talking, because at work, you have to perform tasks with people. You have things to do. You have lots of things to talk about, lots of things to ask, and you can get a very good idea of how people behave in a professional environment, but also how people behave with their friends. So you have plenty of time to build that connection. Why don't we just blend this together now? So work, school. My last couple suggestions, we can all consider this one, are hobby groups and classes. So work, school, hobby groups, classes, right? This is some of the best places you can meet someone, because these are the most interactive. You have things to do. At school, you're learning stuff. You have to ask questions. You have to talk to people. There are group activities. At work, you have tasks. You're doing things. You have to ask people things. You have to get to know people. In fact, it's actually awkward to not speak to people. This is the reverse scenario than the store scenario or the on the street scenario, right? There are situations where it's really weird and unnatural and awkward to talk to people if there's no starting point. You just walk up to somebody on the street and you tell them a joke. It's weird, right? Whereas at work, if you're working with somebody and you have to work side by side with them and you're the only people in the store, it's really awkward not saying anything, because first there's the awkward silence, and then you have to consider how inconsiderate you might appear to the person if you don't say anything to them. You just say hi, but you don't ask them any questions. You don't get to know them. You don't know anything about them. That's really inconsiderate. So it's awkward to not speak. And that's the great thing about school and hobby classes, hobby groups, and skill classes and work. They're all interactive. They're all natural. It's awkward to not speak, so you should speak and get to know people. And plenty of time to build a connection, to turn the stranger phase into connected friend, lover, potential partner situation. So lots of opportunities. You can spend a lot of time cultivating a connection with people. Not only that, but school and hobby groups and classes are even more specifically good because of the interests. So with work, you're not always going to be with the right people or your kind of people, especially if it's just a whatever everyday job like London Drugs or something that you're not so passionate about, or like or KFC, right? But if you choose a place that has a certain kind of cultural flavor to it, then you know you're going to be with like-minded people, right? A certain part of town with a certain cafe that attracts a certain crowd, or going to school taking specific courses, you're going to meet other people who have a similar mindset to you, who think similarly, who have a similar taste, because they're also taking that course. Same with the hobby group. People who like the same things, think in the same way, have the same tastes. Or, the classes, which are more or less the same thing. The skill classes, the martial arts, photography classes, electronic music classes, they're all bringing in like-minded people. And that's what you want, right? You have to have some things in common with the person. You need some discernment in this. So this is one of the best ways to meet the right kinds of people, not just random people. And the final method is online. Of course, we live in the digital world now. We've had online dating as an option for a while. And there are more and more just endless, apps and dating sites out there. And Facebook has had the marketplace, and Facebook has had Facebook dating for a while. And the thing about, a lot of people obviously hate online dating and they'll never do it again. They tried it. But the thing is, the reality is, online dating is the most efficient way to meet people, right? It is extremely efficient. It is extremely fast. You find people, they show up, you just click a button, next, 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 next. Every press of a button is a different person. So you don't have to physically travel anywhere. You don't have to search through scan through a big crowd of people when it's really loud. You don't have to drive 25 minutes downtown, find parking, go to this place, scan around, talk to that one person that appeals to you. It's different and it's way more efficient. You can just stay at home. And with this means as well, everyone has the same general goal, because with hobby groups and stuff, people aren't necessarily using that as the means of dating, right? It's just a way of leading to that. But of course, a dating site is specifically designed to meet people either for friendship or for some kind of dating, romance. So that's what I have to say about the different ways of meeting people based on my own number of years of experience experimenting with this, and also just from the facts of how these things work, the different factors of each means. And as a final suggestion, as a bonus, you want to know what to say, right? You want to know how to start the conversation. There are many ways to start a conversation, and the term for starting a conversation is an opener. This is a pickup or social arts term, but everyone should be using these and is using these without realizing that it's called an opener. The intent doesn't have to be just to pick up men or women. So it's just a way of starting a conversation, right? What's the first phrase? What's the first thing you say? And there are many different kinds of openers, right? There are functional openers where you need to go somewhere or figure something out. So you ask a question like, where do I go here? How do I get to this place? How do I do this? Can you help me with this? And then that can lead to a conversation. And what leads to the conversation, it's getting a bit technical here, but it's called a bridge. So you start with an opener, and then you bridge the conversation with another phrase, like another question or a remark. Yeah, you can start conversations with remarks like, I like that shirt, or that's an interesting hair color. I love that hair color. I love that hairstyle. Something like that, right? It can be a remark. It can be asking an opinion. What I really like are remarks and functional openers. I remark about something that's interesting and it sparks a conversation. And then I ask, their opinion about it. And then it just goes on from there. But really, there are actually so many ways you can start a conversation, and you'll be surprised how easy it is. One really useful trick, actually, that I read about is spotting. Actually, I think in the book, it was encouraged to wear and own what's it items. That these are things that you wear or have on you that are peculiar, and they spark interest, and they get people asking about it, and that starts a conversation. But again, sometimes people just are not trained or used to asking questions. Even though they find something interesting, they don't open their mouth and they don't voice their opinion about it. It's just not a habit. Like, I've never had the habit of going, oh, that's an interesting thing, or that's a weird thing you're wearing. Like, it would all be in my head without realizing that I could actually say it. And then I started studying conversation. I realized there's so much more I could say. So an easy method for the question opener, which is like a remark opener, is you just look at the person and try to find something that's worth asking about, right? Major things are tattoos, distinct tattoos, interesting tattoos. Their shirts. Does their shirt say something? Is it like a band shirt? Does it say the band name on their shirt? Try to guess where they're coming from. Think about, why they're here. Why are they working at this place? Or why are they taking this course? Like, what brought them to this place, right? So that the what brought you here question is good. And then, with all the get to know you questions, you can use that as well. And there are many of them, and I don't have them memorized off the top of my head, but I think you know most of them. So I'm not going to explain all of that. So you can just start conversations with those get to know you questions. It's a pretty good way of doing it. Just try not to spend too much time on the small talk and the chit chat, the cute little remarks, and the really meaningless chit chat that doesn't actually get you anywhere. So you want to avoid that, because if there are things that are really important to you, eventually you gotta get to that. Right? You need to know if the person is right for you. You don't want to be so charmed by them, by the outward appearance, by the giggles, by the flirtatiousness, by little jokes and the banter.
Good luck tonight, and remember, have fun with it!